All right. Good morning. So for our flow class today, we'll start on our back. No props, but just and 2 blocks might be nice for your practice today. If you don't have them, that's fine, but it could be a good one for it. So come on down onto your back, soles of the feet to the mat, heel toe the feet wide to the outer edges of the mat, and let the knees touch in the center of the mat. So when you shape the legs this way, it brings more space to the lower back of the hips. So you should be able to feel that underneath you. Arms down by the sides, palms facing up. Or you could bring the hands on the body, left hand on the heart, right hand on the belly, or even 2 hands in one spot. So see what's feeling good, bounce around between all the options and pick one. Close the eyes, take a deep breath in through the nose, back out through the mouth. Deep breath in through the nose. Exhale out through the mouth. Inhale in through the nose. Exhale out through the mouth. This time, in through the nose. Back out through the nose. Same length on the exhale. This is your Ujjayi breath. Keep going. How long can you stay with this breath? How quickly can you remember coming back to it? Blink open the eyes, reach the arms up so the fingertips are pointing up toward the sky, palms away from you. Bring the right arm in front of the left arm. So you're crossing high up, maybe above the elbows, if the arms are okay with that, and the shoulders. Turn the palms to face down toward the mat, and then slide the fingertips underneath the shoulder blades, like you're giving yourself a big hug. But keep those elbows pointing down toward the navel, shoulders away from the ears. And it's as if you're trying to pull those shoulder blades apart so you get into that shoulder opening. Even though you're on your back, this is still a shoulder opening. It's gentler than some of the other ones that we do. You can hold still with it and stay focused on your breath. Arms reach back up toward the sky, left arm in front of the right arm, cross high up, then turn the palms to face down toward the ground and wrap the fingertips underneath the shoulder blades. Elbows point down toward the navel, tops of the shoulders move away from the ears. Ujjayi breath. Arms come all the way back up. Bring the arms down by the sides, heel toe the feet back to hip width distance apart. If you feel like the heels are way out ahead of the knees, walk the heels in so they're underneath the knees, still keeping the feet hip width distance apart. And then press into the feet. Lift the hips up halfway. So just like a half bridge on your inhale. And on the exhale, set the hips back down to the mat. We'll do that several more times. Inhale, just come up halfway. It's a little bit of a back bend. And exhale, release with the breath. Inhale up. Exhale, release. Inhale up. Try to keep it low for now. Exhale, release. 2 more like this. Inhale up. Exhale, release. Inhale up. Maybe you come up a little bit higher, closer to your regular height for bridge pose. And exhale, release. Couple more like that, a little higher if you want. Inhale, lift up. Doesn't have to be 100% of the way in. Exhale, release. This time, inhale, lift up, stay up, reach the arms up and over the head. So back behind you. And on the exhale, arms come down, hips come down. And now we'll stay with the breath with this one. Inhale, lift the hips up, arms reach up and back. And exhale, hips come down, arms come down. Keep going. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, release. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, release. This time, inhale, lift up, bring the arms up and back, press into the heels, lift the hips up, keep the hips up, bring the arms down by the sides. You can either grab the outer edges of the mat like you're going to pull it apart. If the shoulders feel open enough, you could interlace the fingers underneath you, but you'll know right away if it's too much too soon. Lift and spread the chest, tailbone pointing up toward the knees, feeling some heat maybe in the back sides of the legs. And slowly release, hips come down to the mat. Hug the right knee in toward the chest, leave the left foot right where it is. Right foot comes back down, hug the left knee in toward the chest. Set the left foot down, scoot the hips over to the right, bring the knees over to the left. So you're coming into a reclined spinal twist. Gaze can go over that right arm. You could bend the elbow on the right arm, keeping the elbow in line with the shoulder. Fingertips just point straight back. And this adds a different shoulder opening in your twist. So we do want to open up the shoulders. If it's too much, you can always bring the arm and extend it out straight so the hand's in line with the shoulder. Otherwise, you're cactusing the arm, taking some of that twist away or taking some of the back bend away with your twist. And bring the gaze back to center, feet back to center. Same thing, other side. Scoot the hips over to the left, knees come to the right. Left arm extends out so the arm's in line with the shoulder. And then maybe you cactus the arm, pointing the fingertips back behind you, elbow in line with the shoulder. So feeling that twist, going in the opposite direction. This time, bring the gaze back to center. Bring this left arm all the way over to the right. So you're lying on your right side. Use the left hand to press yourself up to seated. And once you get to seated, let's come to hands and knees, tabletop. So as you come to tabletop, stack the shoulders over the wrists, hips over the knees. Let's turn the hands. So maybe try bringing the fingertips to the sides of the mat. See how that feels. Some of you are comfortable bringing the hands all the way around so the fingertips point toward the knees. Wherever you are, fingers are spread. You're pressing down evenly into the whole hand. On the inhale, reach the heart forward, lift the tail. And on the exhale, round the spine. Stay with your cat-cow breath. Inhaling forward, exhaling back. Go at your own pace. Your breath, the length of your breath is what's guiding you back and forth. So don't feel like you have to stay with me. Eyes can be open or closed. Closed is a nice way to stay inside your body, feeling what's happening, seeing how you're feeling today without judgment. So identifying, using words to identify how you feel and just accepting it. One more cycle, forward and back. Back to a neutral spine. If you have the hands turned in a different direction, turn them back around so the hands face forward. Let's come down onto the forearms. So as you come down onto the forearms, make sure the forearms are shoulder width distance apart. Shoulders are stacked over the elbows. Step the feet back behind you, coming into a forearm plank. So you want the body to be long. Thighs, the tops of the thighs are lifting. Chest is reaching forward, belly's lifting, and you're still pressing down into the forearms and the hands. So you want to use those. You're pressing down into the balls of the feet. Toes are on the mat wide. So make sure the feet are hip width distance apart. You could even go a little bit wider. Bring the heels, both heels, over to the right. Right hand can come in, especially if that shoulder needs more space. Left arm reaches up and you're coming into a forearm side plank. We want the legs to be long. So use those inner thighs to lengthen the legs. Turn that left palm to face forward. Reach the left arm up and over the ears. See if you can get some length on that left side body. Keeping the legs long, tail pointing back toward the heels. Left forearm comes back down to the mat. Set up in forearm plank again, find center, feet still a little wider so that you can bring both heels over to the left. Left hand can come in a little bit. Listen to that left shoulder. Right arm reaches up, forearm side plank. Legs are long. Tailbone points back. Turn the right palm to face forward. Reach that right arm up and over the ear. See if that brings more length on the right side body, still keeping the length on the left side. That left oblique's working to kind of lift the hips up so you get a bit of an arc in the left side body. Right forearm comes back down to the mat. Find forearm plank again, and then this time set the hips down to the mat, tops of the feet to the mat. Chest reaching forward. So you're broadening across the collarbones. Chest is reaching forward. Belly's lifting away from the mat, tailbone pointing back toward the heels. And then we look down the bridge of the nose in our Sphinx pose. Bring that left forearm in toward the center of the mat. Bend the right leg. Reach back. See if you can grab the right foot. Keep the chest lifted if you can. It's okay if it's not working today and you bring the forehead down to the arm, but we've already done quite a bit of back bending. Press that right foot into the hand and the hand back into the foot. So you're straightening the right arm, still getting into that right shoulder, and you're getting into the quad. But it's different than when we bring the foot in and bend the elbow. Gently release the foot back, right forearm in front of the chest, bend that left leg, see if the foot's there, grab it. Once you have it, foot presses into the hand back into the foot. It'll help you keep the chest lifted. Tailbone and pubic bone working toward one another. Gently release that left foot back. Bring the hands by the side ribs on the mat. Come up to hands and knees. Child's pose. So big toes together. Hips sit back as much as the knees will allow. You can always keep the hips up higher if the knees need more space. Forehead comes down to the mat. Balasana, child's pose. Arms out in front of you if the upper body's okay with it, so you still stay in that opening of the upper body. And we want this to be a more active child's pose if the arms are out in front of you. So that means crawling the fingertips forward as you pull the hips back, spreading the fingers wide, pressing down into the whole hand, enough so the forearms lift away from the mat, elbows hug in, and you feel a widening across the shoulder blades at the same time. So very similar structure to downward facing dog in the upper body. And the spine should feel like this in downward facing dog. Long. You're not getting that dipping of the rib cage going down toward the mat. The spine's just straight. So lift the head, look forward, shift forward to hands and knees, tuck the toes, lift the hips up and back. Now, Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Here for several breaths. So if you want to pedal out the feet, you're welcome to, lifting one heel, descending the other. Or if you'd like to come up onto the balls of the feet, lifting the heels up high, pressing the hips up and back, maybe even moving the hips side to side. That feels good too. Deep bend in the knees is great, or feet wide on the mat. Put a bend in the knees, look forward to the top of the mat, walk the feet up to the hands. So take several steps. Try to keep the legs straight, hands down as long as you can. Once you get to that forward fold at the top of the mat, inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. 2 more of those. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Last one. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. We're coming all the way back up to standing. Circle the arms all the way up. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose, lower down halfway chaturanga, maybe up dog. We've done several back bends, but you can stick with cobra if you'd like. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Right leg lifts up and back, 3-legged down dog. Step the right foot all the way through, up between the hands. Set the back knee down gently, up to you if you keep those back toes tucked. Reach the arms forward all the way up, coming into your low lunge. Left arm will stay reaching up. You're feeling that length in the left side body. Right hand comes to the sacrum. So just below the lower back, that flat spot just above the glutes. And then here, you're using that right hand to keep the tailbone and the pubic bone going toward one another. Lift up with that left arm, left side body. Maybe the gaze goes up. You're finding a back bend, but trying to keep the pelvis in alignment with that right hand. Gaze comes forward. Left hand comes down to the mat. Right hand, right hip. Open the chest to the right. So you're feeling that twist of the chest going to the right. You can keep the left hand down on the mat. You can also pop the left hand up on a block, especially if grabbing that back foot is tricky. You can bring a hand on the block and then you don't have to reach back as far. Bend the left leg, reach back, see if the foot's there. Same thing we did before. Press the hand into the foot into the hand. And if you feel like you want to go lower with that left hand, you can. Some of you might want to come down onto that left forearm. If you feel open enough for that, skip it if it sounds like a bad idea. It's deep. Gently release that left foot back behind you. Hands come back to the mat. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee. Now you're in a runner's lunge. Chest is reaching forward. Try to take the rounding out of the upper back. So you stay in the hips. Once you start rounding the spine, we lose some of that hip opening. Then straighten the front leg. Push the hips up and back, modified pyramid pose. Now you can let the head come down toward the leg, but it's more about a long spine than it is how close you can get the head to the leg. So thinking about the heart going forward toward the toes helps you open up the backside of the right leg. Inhale forward to your lunge, step back, downward facing dog. Left leg lifts up and back, 3-legged down dog. Step the left foot all the way through, up between the hands. Set the back knee down, dig into that left heel, reach the arms forward all the way up for your low lunge. Right arm's reaching up. You're feeling that length on the right side body. Bring the left hand to the sacrum, tailbone and pubic bone pointing toward one another, and then start to lift up with that right arm. Maybe the gaze goes up, chest lifts. Gaze comes back forward, right hand to the mat or a block right underneath that right shoulder, left hand to the hip, open the chest to the side. So maybe you stay here. You could scoot that right knee back a little bit further if there's space. That'll help you when you bend the right leg, reach back, see if the foot's there. Press the foot into the hand into the foot as you open the chest to the side. So it's not how close you can get the foot in. It's about straightening that left arm, getting into the left shoulder, as well as that right quad. Gently release that right foot. Left hand comes back down to the mat. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, runner's lunge, chest reaching forward. No rounding in the upper back. Then straighten the front leg, modified pyramid pose. Stay high on the ball of the back foot. Hands can walk in underneath the shoulders. That makes it gentler, especially if that keeps your spine longer. The lower the hands are, the harder this is. And the farther forward the hands are, the more intense this stretch gets. But you're not looking for your deepest stretch here. You're just looking for a nice opening. Plenty of time to get into these muscles throughout our practice today. Inhale forward to your lunge, step back, downward facing dog, bend the knees, look forward, walk, step, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Arms come all the way up to standing. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, bend the knees, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose, shift forward onto the toes, bend the elbows halfway, chaturanga, come up for your back bend, up dog or cobra. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step, hop, feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, bend the knees, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose, shift forward, lower down halfway, chaturanga. Inhale up for your back bend. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Couple breaths in your downward facing dog. Bend the knees, looking forward to the top of the mat. Let's do one more Surya A. Feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. With the breath, inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, fold, hands down, bend the knees, step back to plank pose. Chaturanga. Up dog or cobra. Down dog. Right leg lifts up and back, three-legged down dog. Try to keep those right toes pointing down. We're trying not to open up that right hip out to the side. Step the right foot all the way through, up between the hands. Start with a runner's lunge. So you can still stay up on the fingertips. You could have blocks underneath the hands. Chest is reaching forward, still trying to take that rounding out of the upper back. Straighten the front leg, hips go up and back, let the head and the neck go. Hands can always walk back if you need more space or forward. Inhale forward to your lunge. This time, hop the back foot in until you can seal the heel down, setting up for warrior one. Reach the arms forward all the way up to standing, trying to square the hips forward, lengthen that right inner thigh forward, belly hugs in. Back is warm, so maybe you take more of a back bend in this warrior one, which might mean the gaze goes up, chest lifts. Gaze comes forward. If you lifted it, arms reach back behind you. They can stay apart with the hands just pressing together. If your shoulders are open enough, interlace the fingers. Leading with the heart, fold forward, humble warrior. Try not to let that right hip swing out to the side. Chest can rest on top of the thigh or torso inside the thigh. Chest is reaching forward, but head and neck can release. Try not to grip the toes. All the way back up, warrior one. Release the clasp of the hands if the fingers are interlaced. Next, exhale, bring the hands down to the mat, step back, down dog, vinyasa if you want one, or skip it, they're optional. Left leg reaches up and back. Left toes point down. So you're lifting from the inner left thigh. Step that left foot all the way through, up between the hands. Start with your runner's lunge, lifting the chest, fingertips down, hands down, maybe even hands on blocks. Straighten the front leg, hips go up and back. Figure out if you want the hands back or forward. Let the head and the neck go. Still high on the ball, the back foot, sticking with our modified pyramid for now. Inhale forward to your lunge. Hop the back foot in until you can get the whole foot down on the mat. Reach the arms forward all the way up. Warrior one, Virabhadrasana one. Find the back bend once you have the legs set up. So that right inner thigh spinning back, left inner thigh going forward, belly hugging in. Gaze comes forward, arms reach back, maybe the palms squeeze together, maybe you interlace the fingers, one finger over, pointing the knuckles back, leading with the heart, bow into your humble warrior. Finding a good place for the upper body. Hugging in that outer left hip, just so it doesn't swing out to the left. Shoulders away from the ears wherever you are, so you stay in the shoulder opening. Relax the toes. Back to warrior one. Take your time coming up. Try not to swing up. Reach the arms all the way up. Maybe the gaze too. Next, exhale, hands come back down to the mat. Step back, downward facing dog. Be happy here or take a vinyasa. Bend the knees, look forward to the top of the mat, step, walk, hop, feet go up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Take chair pose, Utkatasana. Bend the knees, weight into the heels of the feet. Make sure you can see all 10 toes. If not, pull the knees and the hips back. Maybe a little bit more flexibility behind the back of the chest than usual in your chair pose, especially for this first one. Come all the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, sit back, chair pose, Utkatasana. Exhale, forward fold, straighten the legs. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands to the mat, any way you want, back to downward facing dog, with or without a vinyasa. Right leg goes up and back, three-legged down dog. Step the right foot forward all the way up between the hands, runner's lunge. Set the back knee down, shift the hips back, walk the hands back, half splits. So you're lifting up those toes on the right foot, push the heel forward a little bit. No rounding in the upper back here. So it's like you're reaching the heart over the toes. And that right heel, it's like you're trying to bring it in toward the body. Spread the toes on the right foot, Ardha Hanuman. Come back onto the sole of the right foot. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, hop that back foot in, warrior one. Interlace the fingers behind the back, open up across the chest, shoulders away from the ears, bow forward, humble warrior. Back up, warrior one, take your time. Find the back bend, maybe the gaze goes up. If it doesn't bother your lower back, the hands can touch. Next, exhale, hands come back down to the mat, step back, downward facing dog, stay here or take a vinyasa. Left leg reaches up and back, three-legged down dog. Step the left foot all the way through up to meet the hands. Set the back knee down. Shift the hips back, coming up onto or lifting the left toes, half splits. Push that heel forward, reach the heart forward. Spread the toes on the left foot. See if you can get space between every toe. Come back onto the sole of the left foot, hands underneath the shoulders, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee. Hop the back foot in, seal the heel, warrior one. Arms reach back behind you, one finger over if you're interlacing, open up across the chest, fold forward, humble warrior. Come back up to the top, Virabhadrasana 1. Maybe the hands touch, find the back bend. Even here, tailbone and pubic bone are going toward one another. And exhale, hands come back down to the mat. Make your way back, downward facing dog. Stay here or take a vinyasa. Take a couple of breaths in your downward facing dog. Finding a moment to reset. And moving on, bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up to the hands as quietly as you can. Try not to make a sound. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Bend the knees, sit back, chair pose. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, sit back, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands to the mat. Make your way back. Downward facing dog. You choose if you want the vinyasa. Right leg lifts up and back. Three-legged down dog. Step the right foot all the way through up between the hands. Come into your runner's lunge. Feet are hip width distance apart. See if you can walk the hands forward. Blocks would be a good idea if you can't get the hands or fingertips ahead of those right toes. We're coming forward to standing splits. So shift the weight forward to the right foot, lift that left leg up, and you're lifting from the inner left thigh. Left toes are still pointing down. That's important. Head and neck release. You could play with your balance a little bit and get the hands as close as you can to that standing foot, maybe even grabbing the ankle with one hand or both hands, but keep that left leg lifted. Hands to the mat, step back to your lunge, runner's lunge, hop the back foot in, warrior one. Lift the chest, maybe the gaze. Arms reach back behind you, interlacing the fingers, open up across the chest, fold forward, humble warrior. Back up, warrior one. Hands come back down to the mat, make your way back, downward facing dog. You can start there, see how it feels, decide if you want the vinyasa. Left leg reaches up and back. Step the left foot all the way through, up between the hands. Come into that runner's lunge, chest lifted. Then start to walk the hands forward. See if you can get them ahead of the left toes. Blocks are great if that's not happening. Shift the weight forward, lift that right leg from the inner right thigh, standing splits. Maybe the hands start to walk closer to that standing foot. Maybe you grab the ankle with one hand or play with grabbing it with both. Still lifting that right leg. Hands to the mat. If you lifted them, step back to your runner's lunge, a long stride. You're about to shorten it. Hop the back foot in, seal the heel. Warrior one. Arms reach forward all the way up. Arms back behind you, one finger over if you're interlacing. Humble warrior, bow forward. Back up, warrior one. And exhale, bring the hands down to the mat, back to downward facing dog, maybe a vinyasa, maybe you stay put. Bend the knees, look forward, quietly bring the feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, sit back, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Walk the hands forward so they're right underneath the shoulders. Blocks could be nice here. You don't have to use them. Just an option to get the hands lifted away from the mat. From here, you have plenty of room for the torso. So hands are right underneath the shoulders, hips are right over the heels. Lift the left leg up and back. Try to keep those left toes pointing straight down toward the mat. Put a bend in that right knee. Play with warrior three. So you're lifting the chest, hugging the core in, coming up onto the fingertips. Maybe the hands come together at the heart. Left toes point down. You could come to a straighter right leg, but it doesn't have to be all the way straight. Hands come down to the mat. Step back to your runner's lunge, ball the back foot way back. Hop the back foot in, warrior one. Interlace the fingers behind the back, humble warrior. Back up, warrior one. This time, bring the hands to the mat, straighten the front leg, pyramid pose. So now that back heel's down, you're squaring the hips. It's like you're bringing the right hip back, left hip forward. And now you fold over the right leg. You can still use blocks underneath the hands. Hands can be flat on the mat, forward, back. See where the opening is. Parsvottanasana. Come back up onto the fingertips, lifting yourself up halfway. Come onto the ball of the back foot. Put a little bend in that right knee. Step the left foot up to meet the right foot. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose. All the way up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, sit back, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Hands come down right in front of the shoulders, maybe on blocks. You know where we're headed this time. Start to shift the weight over to the left foot. Lift that right leg up and back. You want the right heel in line with the hip or lower, so don't go higher than that. Put a little bend in that standing knee. You start to feel how you have to have control of that outer left hip. It has to hug in toward the midline. Core has to turn on. That right inner thigh is working too. See if you can start to come up onto the fingertips. Maybe the hands come together at the heart, and it's like you're pushing something away from you with that right leg. So it's warrior three, and this is actually a great way to teach people how to do warrior three, but it requires so much more strength in your Virabhadrasana 3. So make sure you're still with your Ujjayi breath. Legs are getting stronger. Hands come down to the mat, step back to a runner's lunge. Feet hip width distance apart. Hop the back foot in, warrior one. Still a deep lunge in that front knee as you reach up and back. Come into humble warrior, reach the arms back behind you. If you're interlacing, switch the grip, fold forward. Back up, warrior one. This time, hands come down to the mat. Your feet are already set up. Straighten the front leg, square the hips. Left hip pulls back, right hip goes forward. Let the head and the neck go. Parsvottanasana, pyramid pose, this time with the heel down on the back foot. Inhale forward to your lunge. Come up high on the ball of the back foot. Step that right foot up to meet the left foot. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, bend the knees, hands to the mat, make your way back, downward facing dog. Maybe you stay there, maybe you take a vinyasa. From downward facing dog, lift the right leg up and back. Step the right foot all the way through, up between the hands. Back knee comes down. If you have two blocks, grab them, bring them underneath the hands. I would go the tallest height with your blocks. Start to walk the blocks back, coming into half splits. So you're lifting the toes on the front foot, pushing that heel forward. Chest is lifted. Now you can stay right here in your half splits, but we've done a lot of work on the legs today. So maybe you play with a fuller version of splits. Start with the back leg. So you tuck those toes, Start shifting that back knee back, and you'll feel right away, the blocks will also need to walk back. You want the head, chest, right over the hips. So once you get to a place where you feel like that's about as far back as I can go safely, then you can untuck the toes. Front leg can go forward a little bit more if you want. If you're close to the mat with that right hip, put a block underneath the right hip so you free up the hips, and then you could reach the arms up. We're all going to be in different stages of this, but this is a nice way to open up the hips, the legs, no matter where you are. If you're in half splits, a fuller version of splits. Hands come back down if they're lifted. You have a block underneath you, shift off of it. Blocks underneath the hands. Start to scoot that back knee in if you're in a fuller version of splits, making your way back to half splits. Hands will need to walk forward. Then come onto the sole of the right foot so you can come back into your lunge. You can set the blocks off to the side, hands down, tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, step back, downward facing dog, maybe feeling a difference between the backside of the right leg versus the left leg. Left leg reaches up and back, three-legged down dog. Step that left foot all the way through, up between the hands. Back knee comes down, find your blocks. Tallest height is where I like to start because you can always go down. Lift the chest up, start to shift the hips back, find your half splits, walk the hands back. Once you get it, you can push the heel forward a little bit. Stay here with that spine long, or play with tucking the back toes, starting to scoot that right knee back. Once you get to a certain point, you'll need to walk the blocks and the hands back so the chest stays lifted right over the hips. And there's probably a big difference from side to side. So be okay with that. This could be tighter or more open. And then once you find yourself in your place, and if that left hip's lifted enough and you can get the block underneath there, maybe that's where you go. Maybe the arms reach up. Wherever you are, you're still scissoring the inner thighs. Breathing your Ujjayi breath. Hands come back down if they're lifted. Take that block out from underneath you. Tallest height, start to shift the back knee in if you're in a fuller version of splits. Maybe the blocks walk forward, coming back into your half splits. Then you'll shift onto the sole of the left foot. You can set the blocks off to the side. Hands down to the mat, lift the back knee, step back, downward facing dog. This time, glide forward to plank pose. One forearm at a time, forearm plank. Hug the belly in, lift the hips up, start to walk the feet in, coming into dolphin. So legs are long. See how far in you can walk the legs. Push the chest back. Keep pressing the head away from the mat as you press down to the forearms and the hands. In your dolphin, it may feel good to lift one leg up. If you did that, try the other leg. Set that foot back down. You're in dolphin. Belly hugs in. Get more of the weight into the legs if you can. Then start to walk the feet back to your forearm plank. Set the hips down. Flare out the elbows. Stack one hand on top of the other. Forehead comes down to the mat. Rest. Feeling the heartbeat against the mat. Then start to lift the head up, cactus the arms. So elbows in line with the shoulders. Take a peek at both arms to make sure that's happening. Palms are down on the ground. And then look to the left. Bring that left knee out to the left. You want the inner edge of the foot on the ground outside the mat. Knees in line with the hip if you can get it there. It can always be lower. And then come back to center with the head. Now look to the right. If your neck's okay with this, set the head down on the mat. If your neck's not okay with it, then you can turn the head the other way. But this is your twist. Start to lift the head back up. Left leg goes back behind you. Upper body stays the same. Just bring the right knee out to the right, inner edge of the foot down on the ground. Knee in line with the hip or maybe a little bit lower. Now look to the left. Set the right side of the head down on the mat. See if your neck's okay with it. If it is, stay there. If it's not, you can always turn the head the other way. You can start to be heavy. Feeling the support of the earth underneath you. And start to lift the head back up. Bring that right leg back behind you. Hands come into the mat by the lower ribs. Come up to hands and knees. Take child's pose, big toes together. Sit the hips back. Arms can be out in front of you with the forehead down to the mat, or you could bring the arms back behind you. It's the end of your practice. Maybe the shoulders have had enough. Hands come underneath you, lift the head and the chest, bring the feet over to one side, come to seated on your mat, legs out in front of you. And with the legs out in front of you, we'll come to a seated forward fold, reach the arms all the way up, maybe have a block nearby, fold forward over the legs. You might be able to easily reach the feet today or farther than you typically do. Maybe the hands are on the shins, mat. If you feel like you can go farther than the feet, you can put a block behind the feet. See if you can grab the block. You just want to keep the shoulders in place. You're cheating by bringing the shoulders forward. See if you can keep them in place. Chest reaching forward, legs are long. You can let the head and the neck go. Just try to keep the spine long. And start to release. Set the block off to the side if you're using it. Walk the feet in, shift forward, come onto your back. Hug the right knee in toward the chest. Extend the right leg up, grabbing onto the back of the right thigh. Extend the left leg forward. heel resting on the mat, and then walk the hands up the right leg. Bring the leg in closer to the body. Maybe you can walk the hands a little bit further than you typically do. Hug the right knee in toward the chest. Right foot comes down to the mat. Left knee comes in. Extend that left leg up, grabbing onto the back of the left thigh. Right leg goes forward, heel down. Walk the hands up the left leg, bringing the leg in. Finding where your stretch is on this side. Hug that left knee in toward the chest, right knee too, both knees in, close the eyes, rock side to side. Come into stillness, take a deep breath in through the nose. Exhale out of the mouth, Shavasana. Extend the legs out in front of you, arms down by the sides. Let the feet open up so toes turn out, feet are a little wider than hip width distance. Arms are away from the body, still pointing down. Palms can face up, fingers curl. Or even here, you can bring the hands on the body if that feels like it would be a better Shavasana. Whatever helps you stay in stillness easier. And that changes day to day, moment to moment. And you'll start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Stretch the arms overhead, getting long on your mat. Maybe the feet come closer together. Start to walk the feet in, bending the knees. Rolling over to your right side, cradle the head on the arm. Keep the eyes closed, resting here. Using the left hand, bring yourself up to your meditation seat, cross-legged seat, maybe up on a prop. Sitting up tall with the eyes closed, feeling all that space you made in the body, feeling how easy this posture is at the end of your practice to find. Bring the hands together in front of you. Keep that lift of the chest. Just slightly bow the head. Honor and acknowledge your heart and your spirit. as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up, blink open the eyes. Namaste. Thank you for sharing your practice today. Your legs are definitely open, hips are open too, shoulders. Just trying to find new poses and combinations of poses to get you feeling, get you exploring your own body and with curiosity and feeling that empowerment of the strength that comes along with it. Hope you have a great day.